movies, eh?
There's beating a few out.
Who'd watch them? Not me.
Not us. No, that's why we're here talking about it.
I went to the cinema once, and this we're watching Up, and these teenagers were sitting behind me. That makes me sound old. And when the guy's wife died, they all started laughing.
Is this real?
This is real. This happened. And I was like, I got kicked in the stomach for a second because I'm like, where the hell am I?
To be fair, nothing. I'd say that's the only interesting part of that film. Nothing in that happens in that film after that.
I mean, we're opening with some very hot takes here.
Well, I hope it's not a very good movie.
Neither's Ratatouille, but
I like Ratatouille, but I can understand why you don't like it.
Cheers. We're going to talk about two films we actually saw in the span of a week, which might have hurt one film over the other, but we watched last week both The Lighthouse and Parasite in that order.
Yeah.
At the cinema.
Yeah.
Because home media releases here in the UK aren't happening basically for those films for ages. So we thought we'd catch them while they're still on. And I can't believe that I think we were both really happy with what we saw.
Yeah,
right?
no, they're both very great movies. I think the problem with watching films in the UK in general, I think, is we don't get as much as the US in terms of the smaller films, because they have, the Toronto Film Festival, which I'd love to go to. All that stuff where they show off those small films, which, by the way, both these films did debut at a festival back in May of 2019. These films are actually quite old. They're quite old, but they're being sold as like they're just coming to cinema now, which I thought was quite strange.
I mean, we do have some film festivals, but they tend to be there's quite a few that happen in France,
and there are cinemas here that do show films like that, but they won't show like all of them. They'll just show the ones that get like kind of big.
Yeah, and we're quite I know I am. I'm quite into indie. Well, now indie, then B movies, and so I will watch anything from like any country, any language, and it's really hard to see like a big, or even like a small cinema release of those over here.
Yeah, exactly.
You've really got to keep on top of like social media and stuff nowadays.
Yeah, luckily we caught the last viewing of the Lighthouse, which was good.
Yes.
We might as well talk about that first.
Yeah, let's talk about the Lighthouse first.
What made your last keeper leave?
He believed that there was some enchantment in the light. Went mad, he did. Tall tales. But
I mean, we both. I think the biggest surprise for both of us, Robert Pattinson.
Yes.
And
even Willem Dafoe is kind of like, that's still not a casting when many people were calling this film a masterpiece, I didn't expect Willem Dafoe's name attached to it, because he's I like the guy, but he's quite an eccentric, kind of cartoony actor, isn't he? He's very over the top.
Yes.
With the way, and he is kind of in this too.
But it adds.
Yeah, it adds to it. Yeah.
And I think it doesn't help when the things that we remember him most for recently is like things like Spider-Man and Beyond Two Souls and stuff like that. And it's like, man, Willem Dafoe has been in some interesting things lately. And I don't think it's not unfair to say that this isn't interesting either.
Yeah.
Because of the topic it kind of covers.
But Robert Pattinson really amazed me in this movie. His performance was fantastic.
Not that I don't think either of us doubted his acting ability, but it's more.
But he was never in a film that really showed how.
No, or really interested us.
Yeah,
because
that really showed like the levels of his acting, and I think a lot of people are saying this is the best role he's ever done. So
I can believe that entirely. But so No, I'm gonna get a bit technical here. I like that I think the thing that stood out to me quite a bit was actually the fact that it was shot in a non-conforming like aspect ratio.
Yeah, you told me that.
Slightly, I believe it was slightly taller than it was wider.
Yeah.
Which straight away off the bat gives you a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling because over the last decade or so we've been trying to push things wider screens, wider everything, and to feel like to be in that like narrow space, I think
it added
a lot to the film. It kind of gave, dare I say, the film itself, or almost inserts itself in the film as a character. It's trying to make you, the audience, be like, "Oh, what's going on?"
Yeah, I think unfortunately it's probably not showing at your local cinemas at this point, especially if you're in America. It's probably like late 2019. But if I would totally recommend watching this film in cinema because I don't think getting it on, even though you should support it, I don't think a home release will really, I don't think you'll mimic that same kind of closed experience.
It almost feels like you'd have to turn your TV on its side
and get a bunch of like, get a bunch of like surround, like kind of like to try and narrow the noise of it. But like, unfortunately, I mean, we're not saying you should do that, but that is the best way to. Unfortunately, seeing it in cinema was the best way to watch this movie, and I think it both made us more immersed in the film. But this, I'd say uncomfortable. It's a very uncomfortable movie to watch in the best way because there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie. Some of the time, genuinely, in that film, I was so invested, like I couldn't keep my eyes off the screen. But it was a very, like kind of in a car crash way where you're like, oh, there's something horrible happening, but I have to keep looking. I can't turn away. But like, there was part of me that did want to just look away from the film because I was like, this is making me uncomfortable. It's like I'm there, and I think that goes into your point of it makes the audience kind of part of the character.
Yeah, the audience in the film itself are kind of like, you're there. But it's going back to the uncomfortable nature. I do like it when films make you feel uncomfortable in the right way.
Yeah.
Which I think we both looked at that and kind of drew comparisons to Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Yeah, which again was another film that we also saw in cinema last year.
Yes.
Because they were playing it in cinema. And that film, again, it made you feel very uncomfortable. And it is a very uncomfortable film to watch, and that's why I think it's the masterpiece that it is. But again, in a similar way, that's why I think this film's a masterpiece of what it does, because it really does make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, but it's kind of like two sides of the sort of like same coin, where The Shining is using wide open spaces and bright lights to kind of give you that uncomfortable feeling.
Yes.
Whereas The Lighthouse is
it's trying to close you off.
Really closed in, really dark environments. Because some of the shots in that film, you can basically only make out the silhouettes. It's quite
very fantastically shot film.
Yes, too. I agree. And I think the use of just everything in that, not a single location in that film was not used poorly. Was used poorly. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think trying to, I don't know. It's really hard to get across the idea of claustrophobia, whilst trying to make it look like a film. But I think the director or the cinematographer intentionally tried to make it less cinematic in order to give you that. Ooh.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And okay, and going, and I know no one should take the Oscars seriously, but as good as 1917 was with its one continuous take, this is the film. I am annoyed that The Lighthouse lost to it, because I think the amount of artistic liberties this film took while still looking good kind of annoys me a bit.
No, yeah, I agree. But again, as we say, they are popularity contests, aren't they?
That's true. That's true.
And I'm not saying that 1917 isn't like that whole, when you told me it was a whole one-shot take thing, at least to imitate it, right?
Yes, yeah.
That is such a interesting concept.
Oh no, absolutely. I think it is as well. But it's been done. Okay, this isn't a diss. It's been done before, and I think it's been done better, with like a better use of the one take thing, because a lot of it was faked in 1917, which obviously it's not that obvious. but it's always like
it's a more imitation of rather than actually.
Whereas there are films where it actually was all done in one take and it feels more real. And I don't necessarily think 1917 either benefited or was hindered by the fact it was all done in one take. And
considering a lot of it also was computer CGI.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of stuff where it doesn't matter if it's one take because it's all going to be done in a computer.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
Whereas The Lighthouse, I feel, takes a lot of risks with how it is filmed. I mean, it is, of course, 1917 is a big budget movie and The Lighthouse isn't, so I think them taking more risks makes more sense because they have less to lose. So I think just them providing an interesting style of filming just adds a little bit more to that film, and I'm really annoyed that I didn't get anything for. He got nominated, but I didn't get anything for it.
What can you do?
The one scene I'm thinking of specifically is the one where it kind of pans along the house and then goes up the side of the lighthouse.
Yes, I was thinking of that same one. It's the one that... Well, I was also thinking of the one, inside the house where he walks through the door and the camera follows it through and you see, him going from one room to, I think, the kitchen.
Yes.
And I think they used that same shot. I don't know. I think they used the shot twice. No, I'm not saying repeating it, but, they mimic that. They try to go for it again.
Yes,
another part of that movie, and I thought that was really, again, it's stuff like that I really look out for. And again, the one you brought with the Lighthouse as well. I like stuff like that. I like films that are interestingly shot because Hollywood's quite mundane a lot of the time with how they like to film stuff.
Hollywood seems to have taken a page from television in the shot reverse shot. Is the
easiest way to film. Shot is the only way to film a movie. Interesting.
We've been watching The Sopranos, and we're like, well, for TV, this is quite good shooting style. And then we're like, oh, the reason why is because a lot of films are shot like this now as well.
Yeah, exactly.
What happened to taking a risk?
Films don't want to do it anymore because they want to make their money back.
I'm not saying you put the film on the end of a rope and swing it around your head, but I'm saying, do something.
Well, I'd say this is quite a risky film in general. I'd say it's quite out there. Obviously, horrors, we're no shortage of them, are we?
No.
But there's a difference, I think, between the Hollywood horror and what this person wants to do with their horror, because this one's more on the psychological.
I think a big, a good or very good example that's in people's minds is actually It.
Yes.
Because that old version of it, was a TV.
It was a very silly movie.
Yes, you're right. But it was a TV film, and even though it was a TV film and it was very silly, it tried to play more on the psychological side of it.
Yeah.
Whereas that recent movie was just boo.
It's very jump scare.
Yeah, exactly.
And even though I like the story in that movie, the jump scares are the worst part of it because it's that thing. It's very it's interesting because actually I think that film has a lot of things going for it style wise, but I think the worst part of it is the horror elements because it's literally just a Hollywood checkbook because it does the thing, where it does the music before the jump scare.
Yeah, and then it goes quiet. And then
there's one jump scare in that and because, because of that, I didn't jump at the movie at all except this one time where it was just literally a turnaround and a jump scare. That's the only time I jumped to that film because I didn't expect it. Otherwise, they led you into it with the music cues, and I think that was everyone's biggest problem with that film at the time.
Whereas you can also sort of compare that to, if I remember correctly, I think it's the example I'm thinking of is from The Exorcist, where there's a shot where they're in the attic, and you sort of see someone come out from behind the shadows, and that was considered a jump scare. Even though you could clearly see someone coming out.
Well, jump scares have changed in what's
Yeah, but it's more it's less trying to make you scared of what isn't there and just going, It's the cinematic equivalent of going boo.
I think a film like Alien, I think only has the one where it's in the, where the character is travelling through that, the scene where
yes.
and you don't see it. I think that's the only time there's a jump scare in that movie. I don't know if I'd need to remember if it's done with
there is a second one right at the end where she's escaping on the ship and the aliens.
Yeah, but I'd say, would you not say that's a good use of jump scares?
That is a good use of jump scare, yeah. But when it's just the only way we can scare someone is going, ugh, I think that's...
No, this film didn't have jump scares either. The Lighthouse had a few.
No, it did have a couple. None of them got me though.
No, the only one that got me was the ending one where No. It was more, when the old man character comes back with the axe in the house and tries to kill him.
Yes.
Because it's not the fact he comes back in, it's the sound that comes with it. The dun! It's that. Unfortunately, even that film does it in that one scene. Well, I guess there's no build up to it, it just kind of happens, right? That's the only time it got me, because it's... Because this film doesn't tend to go with jump scares that much. It tends to go more for the slower, like, it'll make you look on it before freaking you out thing. It'll make you stare at it before, giving you a scare.
Yeah, a lot of the horror in this film is pretty much just like, let's see how long we can make this shot linger.
Yeah, it's the one where he finds the siren at the or mermaid, wherever they are, the sirens, I think, where he finds her unconscious body, and it's just it's lingering down until you see like the shot of her below, and she has the fish half of her body, and then she just starts screaming at his face in slow motion or whatever. Like that's a good use of, like, because it's all done really slowly. It's meant to make you uncomfortable before it happens. I'd still say it's quite effective in freaking you out. Though, that being said, I personally, there's a lot of stuff in the film I find creepy, but I don't know if there's anything in the movie I outright found scary.
Well, your boy Willem Dafoe was actually not happy with the fact that people are branding it as a horror.
Yeah.
Even though I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I think it definitely does try to put some psychological...
I'd say it is a psychological horror.
Yeah, but I don't know, it wasn't that scary.
No, it wasn't that scary. I mean, you can still label something as a horror and it not be scary.
Yeah.
What you fear, the Shining's a horror as well, and it's not that scary of a film.
No, it's
an uncomfortable film. But that's the thing. I think there was a time where horror, it didn't just have to be how much, like, it's in your face, it scares you. Horror could have been experimental, like something like The Shining, where it's just meant to make you super uncomfortable. Obviously, it's trying to scare you too, true, but it does it in such a slow way, and it escalates until that ending part. The last act of The Shining is insane. Just like the last act of this movie is crazy.
Insane, yeah.
But they both slowly build to it. Whereas most horrors don't really have that anymore. It's very... I'd say, by the end of the first act, maybe?
Yeah, maybe not even by then.
Yeah.
It tends to be like, thing is discovered, people are like, oh, this won't be anything, stuff happens. It's kind of like a 3-act structure, except there's like 2 first acts.
Well, you don't even see the xenomorph in Alien until, like, 50 minutes into that movie?
Yeah, it's nearly like, nearly halfway through the film before you even...
All these things, these monsters debuted in, if you notice, there's a page that you can find on Google. There's just the thing is like, how long does it take for the monster to show up? And that shows how films were made back in the day versus now. Because now, the monster would be shown quite recently. But even that first Godzilla movie, you don't see Godzilla until about 45-50 minutes into that film. Yeah. Same with the xenomorph from Alien. Same with... Again, I think the one from Predator as well. Obviously, Predator's kind of a silly film, but I love it. But they take their time showing you what the thing actually looks like, whereas now they kind of want to get out of the way as soon as possible.
Some of it is also, I mean, there is also an argument to be made that a lot of the decisions to not show the monster until later was because the puppets for them were crap, so they had to kind of like hide it in different ways.
Definitely.
Because, like, from what I'd heard, that original xenomorph puppet wasn't very good.
No.
That's why they chose not to show it, which is probably why the second and third film kind of show its full thing, like, right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Say better puppetry for it. But,
yeah.
But I mean, it is effective. I think it's more of an accidental thing where it's like, oh, this doesn't look good, so we won't show it.
Well, I mean, a lot of the greatest things in movies are done because of limitation.
Yeah, and I think that
I think having limitations forces creativity.
Yes, and of course,
when your back's against the wall, you try to do your hardest to make it presentable. That's how I see it.
There's a B movie called Reptilicus, which is about a kind of like this monster that can kind of regenerate its body from like just one cell, which and the whole thing is basically if you're going to kill it, you have to destroy it entirely, and you only see bits of the monster as it's regenerating because they only you only get bits of it 'cause it's a really low budget film. But then when you finally do see it, it's pretty much just like, here's a lizard we put in a costume. So it's kind of like that. It's the same. That kind of applied to those films where it's we show you bits of it because we're not sure how it is, and I think it works. The horror in that film does work a little. If the film wasn't so cheesy, the horror would kind of work a little bit. But it's kind of like what is this thing? What does it look like? Well, it can take someone out without like them even having a chance to fight back. Whoa.
But I think horror's taken their time. I think if there's any genre that should take its time with setting up what the issue is, I think horror should be that. Because, as I said, this film, like, the first... I'd say, you know what, I was intrigued from The Lighthouse as soon as that movie started, but, the first half is definitely a lot slower than the second half, and when that film picks up speed, it doesn't stop.
Yes. No, it's not one of these horror films where it takes breaks. There is once those breaks are cut, that's it. There is no stopping this train until the end.
That film's like last third is a journey through time.
a lot of the film is kind of like, it almost portrays what's at the top of the lighthouse as kind of like, I guess for lack of a better term, an antagonist. But then it's kind of like, well, maybe it's not the lighthouse. Maybe it's the old man who's the antagonist. Well, actually, maybe it's not the old man at all. Maybe it's Robert Pattinson. Oh, maybe it's not him. Maybe it's this third character.
That's the thing. What I love about this film, and I don't know what people's opinions on the whole subjectivity to this film is, but I think what I love about this film is how like ambiguous a lot of the story surrounding it is. You don't know how much of that film is actually real. That's the thing.
And I think we haven't mentioned the characters in like names yet, because it's actually, the film makes a very big point about actually who's who. It sounds weird, but you're not actually like, one of the character announces, "Oh, this is my name," and it's like, "Oh, okay," and then the other one goes, "Wait, but no, that's not your name. My name's this." I think it turns out that actually both the characters have the same name.
Well, the name Robert Pattinson's character introduces himself as Winslow.
Winslow, yes.
Yes, and the old man's Thomas.
Yes.
And then, they get to know each other a bit over, like working, because the plot of the movie is that Winslow is come there to work for 4 weeks, just to earn some money, and, the old man is, he's like monitoring him, docking his pay when he messes up, stuff like that. And, they get to know each other, and that's when he says that his name is Thomas. And then that adds the whole, like, well, why did he lie about what his name was? Which one's Winslow? Which one's Thomas? Is the old man Winslow? Was it some third character who you see a third character, but you get no explanation on, like, what it is, because I don't think he's alive. I think he's dead. Or at least it's presumed that he is. And it's just like... That film is like, you don't get an answer on who's who or what's what. You just like, it's just a film that existed.
Yes.
And then again, that last shot of the film always weirded me out in terms of if any of the film was even real, because it's the whole him getting, obviously we're going to talk about spoilers.
I think we already have.
Yeah.
I think we're past that point.
But obviously at the end it's him on the... at the bay or whatever, or I don't know where he is on the rocks, and he's getting pecked at by the seagulls and he's naked. I just thought it was a bit strange for him to get to that point from falling down in the lighthouse, because I thought him falling down in the lighthouse would have killed him, or at least, broken like a leg or something like that, to the point where he wouldn't take off his clothes, walk outside and have a nap on the rocks. Even if he went crazy and all that, he'd probably just stay in the lighthouse, right?
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if I saw that axe wound on him at the end. Because remember, he got hit with the axe at the end. I don't know if... I'd need to watch that again. That might be my problem. But I don't remember him having it. But maybe I'm completely wrong about that. Yeah, no, the film... I really liked it. I thought the chemistry between the two characters was really good to watch. You know what? I'll give this film this. I think it has a really weird sense of humour.
Yes. No, there were a couple of points where we both laughed out loud.
It's just funny. Yeah, this film, even though it's an indie movie, it's clearly for the snobs.
Thank you.
It's not above a fart joke.
Yeah, sure.
it's it's just like, I think it's one of the first scenes he just farts, and that's the joke, right? And then, obviously my favorite scene comedy wise is where he insults his cooking, and then he goes like the old man goes on this rant like that, we'll get Poseidon to curse you and all that, and then Winslow just responds with, "Okay, I like your cooking." I think it's a really good scene.
All right, have it your way.
But the scene that got me, like, just in terms of all this weird stuff was happening, but I think it's the scene where Winslow made Thomas's character, or just Thomas, that like a dog scene.
Oh my god,
that really got me. Like I was like, because I didn't understand the film's tone at that point. I was like, what's this film trying to do? Is it trying to make me laugh or creep me out? I can't tell. I think it's a beautiful mix, though. It's a scary. I think it's a scary line to go down, because I think mixing it between what's supposed to creep you out and what's supposed to make you laugh it can come off what's tonally just like they don't work. But I think this film pulls off well. I don't know why it pulls off well, but I think it just pulls off well. I think the comedy, if anything, just makes the whole thing just weirder. Makes it more like just strange.
Yeah.
Because I think if anything, with all this weird stuff happening and then it just bursts into just like a scene that's meant to make us laugh, I think if anything it's stranger because we're like, why was that there? What was the point of that? I think it makes us just question our own sanity more. And that's a big thing with the film, isn't it? They're both going crazy, or one of them's going crazy, I don't know. But yeah, that's what I thought of the film. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if you're looking for a film that's gonna make you question yourself, go for that one. I think it does have quite a few. Obviously, it's a. I want to say it's an 18, isn't it? No, it's only a 15. Sorry, it's a 15 for a reason, but it's got a lot of dare I say borderline, disturbing images in it. But it is a really good, like, it's an hour and a half of your life you are never gonna forget.
Yeah, so do you think that the film not making much sense and not having a real plot... I don't know if I want to say plot. Obviously, it made sense. There was a structure. He was going more insane. But just the events surrounding it just being completely wacko. Do you think that added to the movie?
I agree, because there's a lot of time where having a plot that doesn't make sense is bad. But I think here it's trying to make you relate to what the characters are going through. Because it's less of a oh, I'm dealt, because here's a thing, and then we're telling you that it's less the characters experience something and then the other one is telling them that didn't happen. It's literally like we are seeing the things that Robert Pattinson's character is seeing, and then we're being told, but that's wrong. So it's kind of like it's the not telling you things in the right way.
But you think that adds to it, though? Yeah,
because it adds that. Wait, hold on. It's less of a. It's going to sound really hypocritical because I hate things that lie to you, but I feel like it's lying to you in the right way, where it's trying to make you not only question what the characters are thinking, but
it's putting you in
what you're thinking.
It's putting you in his shoes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, I'd probably agree that the fact they didn't make much sense in that regard, I think, added to it. And that's all I really have to say about that. I thought otherwise, you'd for me, you'd be hard pressed to find a real big flaw in this film for me, because the story it wants to tell.
There was one.
What?
The one Robert Pattinson hit when he fell off the lighthouse when he was painting it.
It's clever.
Yeah, thank you. I get. I pay someone to write this.
But the just like in terms of the flaws of the film, I can't think of much I had with it. Genuinely.
I didn't like.
Did you like how it ended?
Yeah.
So you don't dislike the ambiguous nature.
I'm trying
to
sit here. Obviously, I don't think anything's flawless.
Maybe it could benefit with a rewatch.
Maybe. I think I would have to rewatch it again when it gets released. Never. But
you'd also understand you'd be watching it from a different perspective too,
yes,
because it wouldn't have that like closed off.
I might show members of my family. I might get my dad to watch it with me actually, and maybe my brother. But I'm just gonna just gonna be like, okay, and because I off the top of my head, because the sound design is poor intentionally to the point where the poor audio kind of adds to that what the hell's going on kind of tone. There's a bit at the end where the sound goes all distorted intentionally, and it's kind of like, ooh. But I don't think there is anything that I can point to that isn't that. It doesn't feel like anything was done unintentionally. It feels like all all of it was done intentionally to kind of like throw you off in one way or another. I don't know. I think it's I honestly think that it pretty much is a flawless film.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And it will be one of the few times where I think I actually agree with the people, because often when people say it's a masterpiece, they're kind of like, there's asterisks next to that. I genuinely do think that this film is a masterpiece.
That's fair.
In terms of everything seems like it has a purpose. The pacing is perfect to the point where it builds up to the insanity and then just runs with it right to the end of the film.
The only thing I could see people having an issue with, besides the way it looks, because I know that's going to put people off anyway, is just you don't get an explanation what happens.
No, actually, speaking of the way that people feel, this reminds me of a review that I saved, and I sent this to my brother, and I believe I showed you at the time too, but just for just so that the audience can hear. This is one we found on Amazon. 1 star to The Lighthouse. Our group left the cinema 10 minutes into this movie when we understood it was in black and white. After some bartering with the manager, we got a last-minute swap for Jumanji in full colour. This is 2020, and I would implore the producers to at least include an option to view a colorized version of this movie as an extra disc. Now, obviously, I think that this review probably is ridiculous. I don't think this might actually not be a real review.
I think it's baiting.
It definitely feels like baiting a little bit. If it is real, I would also believe it, because I have read genuine or heard genuine opinions from people that are along those lines who won't give films a chance because they are in black and white, or they're in a funny aspect ratio, or maybe the sound quality is poor, subtitles.
There's people who just don't
like
watch
that.
old films in general.
No, people who just don't watch old films.
Yeah.
We know people who think things released before 2011 are bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's just it's old. I like the way films look now. Just not to be like that, but I think the way a lot of movies are filmed and look now is boring.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate a film doing something different with it. Different's not always good, but in this case, it just worked for me.
Well, I mean, and also just putting out a black and white film isn't necessarily bold. It's not a huge decision to make.
No.
Because a lot of films, modern films, have come out in black and white.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a thing since. I mean, I don't know how often it was done stylistically.
Well,
but I think of stuff like Schindler's List is the big one for me.
Sin City.
Sin City,
As
yeah.
bad as that film is.
You don't like Sin City? Interesting. Fair enough.
Oh, wait, Sin City. No, I was thinking of a different film, don't worry.
Never mind, okay.
Don't worry, I take that back. Sin City isn't bad. Stop disliking my video.
I mean, it's not.
It's not master.
Yeah, I'm not gonna complain if you think it's bad. I mean, it was done by one. Oh God, who did that movie? I forget. I think it's the guy who did 300.
I think so too, which is why I think a lot of people have turned on it.
No, is it the guy who did 300? No, because who did 300? Was that Zack Snyder?
I don't think so.
Oh my God, no.
And IMDb is.
I think I know
not loaded.
I think I know who did it.
IMDb. If there was one time for your website to go down, this is not it.
I think I know the director who did it.
Yeah.
I think it's the guy who did Spy Kids.
You're fucking right. Let's see. Sin City. Frank Miller.
Nah, I could be wrong then.
Frank Miller, 300.
Oh, he did 300.
Yeah.
Okay, so he didn't do Spy Kids.
Let's try that again. Sin City, directed by
Frank Miller
of 300
Fame. Yeah. See, sorry, I thought Schneider was 300 for some reason because of how stylistic. he used to. I don't know. I thought he liked that style for some reason. You know how it like has no color and it's very like.
Yeah, I'm just looking through some of the stuff he did before.
He didn't do Spy Kids, did he?
He wrote RoboCop 3 and 2.
Not the good one though.
Not the good one. Frank Miller and Robert Rodriguez both.
Rodriguez, he's the one that did Spy Kids. I guarantee that.
Let's see.
Frank Miller, isn't he a writer? Isn't he a comic book writer?
I'm looking up his biography. It's a book. We'll put maybe on that. Mini biography, lol. No, yeah, he did do Spy Kids.
So the director of Spy Kids did Sensei. Cool. That's the takeaway from this.
Yeah.
We've gone off topic.
Nice Spy Kids. But, you know, speaking of black and white,
so.
speaking of black and white films, you know what film is also getting a black and white release?
What?
부모님 얼굴도 뵙고 좋더라. 건강들 하시고.
일거리가 없으셔도
네가 내 대신 얘 과외 선생님 좀 해줘라. 영어.
대학생인 척하라는 거야?
구라를 좀 치지 뭐.
Parasite. Ooh.
Is it?
Yeah, Bong Joon-ho has said that he is actually interested in re-releasing the film in black and white.
Why?
Because he feels like it would add to the potential of the film.
Would it?
I don't know, but he said he's not looking at doing, you know, just straight put a black and white filter on it. He's going to color grade the whole film so that it makes use of the black and white. So he's going to make it lighter and darker, increase that contrast.
Sure.
I don't necessarily think that would add to it myself. Wouldn't add anything for me. But I don't know. That's a good segue into the Parasite. Thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was a great movie.
Yeah.
I thought The Lighthouse was better, but I thought it was a great movie.
I just quickly mention. I think that Lighthouse is my movie of 2019.
Yeah.
Because of how good it is. I don't think I saw another film in.
I'd probably put Parasite second though.
Sure.
Yeah, Parasite is. I think it's a fantastic movie. I just think it's unfortunately suffers from the fact we watched Lighthouse that same week.
Well, yeah, and that's we both like Parasite. We both think it's a fantastic film.
Yeah.
But
this one has noticeable flaws.
Yes, but the film is basically it was very hard to describe the Lighthouse's plot synopsis because it's pretty much just like guy goes and lives on the rock for 4 weeks, then shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
This is more of a oh, here's a family and I need a job. Well, let's go and do that. And basically, one family slowly takes over another family's kind of life, and then it kind of culminates that actually there's more going on than it seems, and all kinds of crazy stuff. Woo.
Well, I think that the whole process of I'll give Parasite this. I think it just used characters well. I think it's a movie. You know how you watch a film and you're like, oh, this movie doesn't, do anything with the characters. I pretty much say every character in this contributed to the overall plot in the movie, which is good. They all played a part in it, which I didn't think that the kids of that rich family would, but they both did play a major part in the other families. But yeah, this poor family making their way to integrate themselves into that rich family's life and start taking jobs and getting the others fired. I think that might be my favorite part of the movie. Is just that whole process.
Yes. So yeah, that first almost the first half.
The first half of the movie. Yeah,
it's very we slowly introduce ourselves into this family's life, and they're very nearly caught out twice actually. Whether it's kind of the kids kind of catch on that. Oh, hold on, wait a second.
Yeah, they smell the same.
They smell the same. And it's kind of it was interesting to see how we need money, we need a job. How do we? And the son of the family is kind of offered this. Oh, I'm teaching this rich kid's daughter how to speak English. Do you want to do it? He's like, yeah, we'll do it. And then he finds out that there are all these other positions that they have. They have a driver. They have a housemaid, and they're looking for someone to kind of or it's more suggested to them that maybe they should have someone look at the kid, the son who's got it kind of he's hyperactive and stuff like that. So it's kind of there's oh wait, we're seeing openings in this family that we can move into and get some extra dosh rolling in. And just like the Lighthouse, where it kind of like keeps escalating further and further to the point where it's kind of like, oh wow, this is going crazy. Parasite kind of does the same thing where it kind of like, okay, well, we're starting off with just replacing people in their jobs, and then oh wait, hold on, there's something else going on. Oh, hold on, there's someone living beneath the house. Wait, hold on, he now wants to kill us. What? And it kind of like culminates where the Lighthouse kind of ends at the peak of the madness. Parasite kind of ends, after that sort of come down. So the peak happens, and then the film comes down after it. I think that's probably the best comparison I can make between the two films is that Parasite has an extra 10 minutes on the end of it, which kind of has like an aftermath of the film. But yeah, so I guess.
Well, I will say this about the film is that okay, so yeah, I think the movie's fantastic. Like pretty much, like I had no issues with it. I'd say that first half is quite like just not really flawed. I'd say once they introduce the people beneath the house, the person beneath the house, that's kind of where I liked it, but I can understand it's such a jarring just change of like...
Yeah, because the film does have that unsettling kind of like tone where they're like, well, hold on, wait a second, those people we got fired, isn't that what's happened to them?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Something bad's going to happen. But I did not expect it to go, well, actually, I was supporting my husband who was living underneath the house all these years. That's definitely a bit of a jarring change, and if you see that as a problem with the film, I can 100% understand that. Because that is just a strange path to go down, because the film, from that point onwards, the film just changes, I'd say, genre. I'd say that first half is kind of a bit of a drama, kind of a drama comedy maybe, and then that second half's kind of like a
straight up thriller.
Yeah, straight up thriller, yeah. And while we praise stuff for slowly building to that point, I think Parasite kind of changes too soon.
It is unfortunate, and I think the way in which it tries to tell the story, there was no way it really could have. It was pretty much just like, we have to make this change here. But it is a bit of a jarring change where it's kind of just like the film goes from like one genre to the next in one scene. It does play off of that quite well afterwards, but I think that is kind of it is a bit jarring. Yeah,
once that stuff's get introduced, it's good because it's like, yeah, it plays off. I agree. If that was a separate film and it was a film about that, then I'm pretty sure it would have been fantastic too. But the problem is, you've got the first half of the film and the second half of the film, and it feels almost like they have nothing to do with each other tonal wise. Obviously, plot wise, they kind of play into each other, but it's just a bit strange, isn't it? And I get what they're going for. It goes off the title there, Parasites. It's going off the fact that the main characters are leeching off these people, but also the people in the ground are leeching off these people. It's kind of like everyone's leeching off everyone kind of thing.
There is also the argument that actually maybe the rich family are the parasites, because the whole thing was started by that family buying the house from the owner, from the architect who built it, who, if I remember correctly, also hired that housemaid and suggested they hire on afterwards as well.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'll say this about the film, that it's very I will say it's a bit jarring, the shift it changes into, but I will say that to me it was more of it definitely derailed the film a bit, but not to the point where I'm like, I don't like this film anymore, because I still think there's elements of that second half of the film that are really good. It's just, I just don't know if they picked the best path. If you watched that first 10 minutes of the film, would you have guessed how it would have ended?
No.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a good thing.
No, in this, unlike in the Lighthouse, where it kind of was a good thing where you couldn't tell where it was going, here it kind of feels like the film was kind of more riding on that, where it's kind of like, oh, how when you see what's going to happen next, you will literally scream, and it's kind of like, huh?
Yeah, that second half of the movie's a bit weird, but I still like it. I still think it's great. I still think the movie overall was fantastic.
No. It's more that one scene there, where the bits either side of it are pretty good. It's just that scene there where it makes that change, where it's kind of like,
the ending's a bit off.
Yeah,
too.
The only thing that you can kind of point to is the fact that he was the one that was controlling the lights when the father got home.
Yeah, it was probably. I'm not gonna say it wasn't planned, because it definitely was planned to have that in it, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like it's just like, here's a swerve, and it's like, oh. And to be fair, even though it kind of becomes a thriller, the underground part, it's still played off in kind of a humorous way.
Yeah.
Like that guy underground's a weirdo. Like she's feeding him the banana, innit? And he's just eating it. He's like, "Oh, you look like a mess." Like he's so casual about like the whole situation. But it's when they start like fighting each other that's when it becomes more like a thriller. And I like the commentary on the rich and the poor. I think it's good commentary. I think it's not original, it's not new. But it's
universal.
Yeah, it's done well though.
Yes,
and
yes.
I think if it's done well, I'm gonna like it. And in the case of this, I love the message it was going for. I love all that. That one part of the film, I just don't know if it was the best thing for that movie to do. I know we're talking a lot about it, but it's because we both think the film's good, so we really have nothing else to harp on but this one point.
No, it is kind of a strange sticking point. But it's
because it directly affects the ending.
It
too,
does directly affect the
which
ending.
we're both not big on either.
No.
The ending of that film's just a bit like, all right, here's the aftermath. The end. It's all right, cool, I guess.
I think we both of us don't like things that try to wrap things up too definitively.
Yeah.
Parasite never gets to that point.
No.
But it is kind of like it
has. You know what? Despite the film's tone, it has a somewhat optimistic ending.
If we never knew what happened to the father, I think I'd be okay with that too. If the film just kind of like, we're carrying on our lives.
You know what? When he ran away, I guessed that he was living underneath the house after that.
Yeah.
That's what I did, and then when it happened, I was kind of actually disappointed that was the answer.
See, if there were two things I could change about that movie, it would be that scene where they introduced the underground basement, and it would be we just never find out what happened to the father.
Yeah.
It's left open.
Well, that's the thing that I'm just a bit disappointed that they went that, because I predicted that while I was watching it. While I was watching that ending scene where he ran away, I was like, I bet he runs back down and he just lives there, because they don't know about it. That whole underground thing under the house, nobody knew about. And which I think is a bit strange. You'd think somebody would investigate that after a while, but nobody really cared.
Yeah, it was behind a thing on the wall, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
so you kind of don't want to move it, do you? But at the same time, it's just a bit strange, and the fact that the father character has to live there for the rest of his life, until the ending implied that eventually he'll get out once he gets rich enough to buy the house. But I don't know if that was a flash to the future or if that was just wishful thinking. I don't know. But either way, yeah, I think the ending's a bit. I mean, obviously the message of it is, don't take shortcuts, do the right, because he learned that he should go to university, get a good job, eventually get rich enough to buy it. Because what that family was doing throughout the entire film, where they were trying to take shortcuts, weren't they, to a better life, and it didn't pan out well for him. I don't know, if they... But the thing is, the problem is, that whole underground element of it is the reason it didn't pan out well for them. And I think if that kind of hurts it a bit.
Well, it's a whole, don't do this because it's dangerous versus I could walk out tomorrow and get hit by a car kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I can understand the whole not wanting to take shortcuts thing. It's good advice, do things properly, do it nice, not do it twice. But it's also like, when the stakes are that high, you could just be like, don't do this or you'll die. It's kind of like, alright.
Yeah, but overall, I like the movie. I like the characters. I liked the story it was trying to tell. It was just this one element of the film I didn't really like, but otherwise I think it was, again, quite a well shot movie.
Good sense of tension as well.
Yes, exactly. It was a very well shot movie, obviously not the Lighthouse level, but it definitely, it wasn't that generic shot reverse shot thing which we hate so much in cinema. And if anything, it's got me more interested to check out some of his other films, because that's the first film by him I've seen. So, it's got me interested in checking out some of his old ones, if they're any better or any worse. I don't know. I know a lot of people have been saying mixed things about the ones he did for Hollywood. The American, because he was doing American films for 10 years.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have said stuff like that, but apparently his Korean films are quite. If they're at the level of Parasite, even I'd be like, that's quite a consistent director.
No, yeah. And Parasite is a great film.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's just, unfortunately, one, we watched alongside The Lighthouse, which we thought was better.
Yeah.
And two, it's just this one, not everything's flawless. We can, we our last podcast was we complained a lot about two games we really like. So, we're gonna complain. We're gonna talk about the negatives and stuff we like. Don't take us. We don't like it. I know, because I know that's easy to do on the internet these days. It's just, they said one negative thing, they must hate the film. We're prefacing now, We love both films. They're both fantastic.
Yes.
We're just saying they had issues.
But yeah.
What was the second one do?
So 2 strong recommendations today. Watch The Lighthouse. I was going to say watch The Lighthouse if. No, watch them both. But watch The Lighthouse if you like a little bit surrealism, if you like good psychological horror, and you like films that are shot intentionally to make you feel uncomfortable. And you should watch Parasite if you like sort of like more drama thrillery kind of things, more relaxed films. If you like films that they kind of like to throw you a curveball every so often, and just have a good sense of humour.
Yeah, but also I'd say that for Parasite. Also, just if you've never seen. Like, if you just never seen somehow a foreign film before, great starting point, isn't there?
Sure. But don't start going around saying you're a film snob because you watched one of the most popular films of 2019, because you're gonna come off as a bit of an arse.
Well, that's a problem with both these films, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think, as indie as The Lighthouse is, as small as like, oh, it was at a film festival. Unfortunately, it's gone to the point now where it's popular.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna breed a bunch of like. It's not bad that it's popular. I'm glad movies like these are getting popular, but I'm more talking about the ramifications of it. It's gonna breed a lot of I watched this film. Yeah, but everyone's seen that.
Everyone's
film.
seen that film. We had the same thing happen a few years ago with Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where everyone went to see that and was like, "I'm a film snob now because I watched
a film from a different country."
No, being a film snob isn't a good thing. Do you think that I enjoy going around being like Hollywood sucks? What you enjoy is stupid. MCU bad? No, I wish I could go. All films are great.
I bet you wish you could enjoy them, but go to the cinema and enjoy a movie.
I wish I could just be like, wow, every single film ever made is great. No.
And it's easy to say, just enjoy it, but
yeah,
what you just enjoy, can't. You can't.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
People enjoy different things. It just so happens to be that I claim to love every B movie ever made ever, but I tend to like films that take more risks and are more interesting. And I also don't think that people are more intelligent because they watch foreign films, because I've watched a lot of foreign films and I'm stupid.
Yeah, and I just think that a lot of the arguments for these, like, oh yeah, I watched this and I'm better, not necessarily, because I've watched films that are considered masterpieces by many people, and I thought they're flat out boring, and I've watched films that are considered just good that I thought were fantastic. So I think obviously with films there tends to be a generalization of like what's considered the best films of all time versus what's the worst. But what you enjoy. For me, film, indie or Hollywood, even though it's probably going to be unlikely with Hollywood these days, if I really love a film, I really love a film regardless of how it's made, when it was made. For me, I like what I like. I've watched films from as old as, I'd probably say the oldest film I've ever seen is probably the 40s, because I have seen Seven Samurai. I think that movie's really good. And if that is the 40s, might be the 50s, I don't know. And I've, and to me, I think whatever, just like that, the production of that film doesn't bother me at all. But there are going to be people who look at that and go, oh, that film's, it's old, it's black and white, whatever. Same with B movies. This film looks cheap, I can't watch it. And I just can't understand that, because you're not, I don't know, if you're there for the effects, then there are film buffs. There's different types of film buffs, aren't there? And there is the film buff who loves their special effects, who will analyze special effects to a T, will tell you that here's how they did it, know all the behind the scenes stuff, will tell you that, most likely will tell you that practical effects were better than that is us. Yeah, I mean we both do think practical effects are better, but also we don't care enough. We don't go, oh, the effects are the reason we watch it.
No, exactly. I think when you're going into a film, I think prioritizing narrative should probably come first.
Yeah,
and maybe acting ability.
Yeah,
and then special effects, because as your boy,
I'd even say style's more interesting than effects.
Well, as your boy George Lucas said, probably before doing whatever it is he did afterwards, special effects are a tool to help you tell the story. They shouldn't be the selling point, and I agree with that. But some people think.
Yeah, and obviously we can get won over by him.
Do you think that Avatar did as well as it did just because of its special effect, because of its story. Sorry, it was entirely because it was in 3D and a special effect.
I mean, I will say this about James Cameron. He has always been for all his films, he's always been trying to push special effects because he did the Terminator films, which, at the time were pushing it. Aliens, remember he didn't do the first one, he did the second one. And that film does look a lot better than the first one does. Titanic is probably, besides Avatar, Titanic, say what you want about that film, the way they replicated the ship in that, fantastic. Like let's what you think about Titanic is what you think about Titanic, but the effects that go into Titanic, like the actual remaking the ship, must have been such an expensive thing to do, and only that is James Cameron's style. He's a very special effects person. So that's a director you could point to and go, that's somebody you look for special effects. Avatar was pushing us. Would you say of 2000, because it was 2009, would you say it was the best CGI at the time? 2009? Because I probably would say it is.
I think for where bits of the film were fully 3D, I'd say yes.
Unfortunately, a lot of films try to mimic that now, and it all kind of looks fake.
A lot of fully 3D films tend to go for sort of like a cartoony kind of a style, or like a exaggerated style. But I think it's because it was mixed with a live action. They were trying to make it look more real, and I'd say that for 2009, it kind of did do it pretty well.
Yeah, and
because there are still films to this day where they do a lot of mixing between the two, and it's kind of that doesn't look so good.
But unfortunately, I wouldn't say that film CGI is aged the best. I think it's just a problem with CGI. I think it's going to age. You look back at those old Pixar movies, and a lot of those have aged a bit.
That's the thing. You can go back and watch those, those first Star Trek movies, and the models they look fantastic. They look fantastic. And they look just as good as those CGI ships do. I just
rewatched the Indiana Jones trilogy, and so much. Obviously the green screens are bad.
Oh yeah, so sometimes yeah.
But the practical effects in that film were so good.
I think it's because having something with weight, having something that's real. You can do more, not more with, but it feels. Yeah, it's easier to convince me it's real.
I know the car chase I know the car chase from the first movie, the minecart scene in the second movie, and the tank scene in the third movie. I know it's fake, but it doesn't but it looks good.
Real versus CGI, where it's kind of there's being too ambitious, and I think films that use will fix it in post as a kind of But
I think it's crazy now that the film buffs and the snobs, now we're getting to a point where we're praising films now just for having practical effects. Whenever you see one,
it does feel weird.
It's rare, isn't it? It's finally a film that does practical effects. And I get it. When practical effects were the norm, I bet there was a lot of negatives to it. I bet there was a lot of people who criticised, they're trying to push special effects. Because, it was all generalised under it. Not like now, we know that special effects is you can categorise it. By the time, I bet they're very much special effects, they're just trying to wow us with explosions and all that. At least it looked real, though.
And a lot of people, quite a few people, retroactively, I guess, were upset because the film Tron was very famously disqualified from winning an award for special effects because it used computers, and that was considered cheating.
Sure.
How times have changed.
Well, the thing...
Not that's necessarily a bad thing.
Well, Tron's an interesting one because, a lot of that movie hasn't aged well, but, a lot of it's practical, so that's kind of a situation where, elements of it haven't aged well.
I think a lot of people overestimate how much that film actually is computer-generated. A lot of it is actually just paintings.
You know what, then? I'll give it that in the fact that it kind of looks like it's replicating bad CGI.
Yes, exactly.
I'll give it that. I guess that's kind of impressive to some extent.
But I think the thing is actually it's come full circle because we can, that kind of post vaporwave era we're in at the internet where it's kind of everything looks like it did in the 80s. I think that Tron's come full circle and it now looks good again.
Yeah, maybe. Well, that's the thing because Tron Legacy just looks so generic.
Yeah.
At least Tron's original look had a look
as ugly and as bad as it was. It's at least you could point to it and go, that is a film. Yeah.
It's downright iconic.
It is iconic, yeah.
That the Legacy is not, because
No.
it tries to modernize everything. Do you remember all the outfits they wore in Legacy?
Yes.
They look stupid in the original Tron too, but again, it's like, oh, this is the 80s.
But they had character.
Yeah, again, yeah, they did. They had character. That's true. Didn't the actor who played Tron, didn't he reprise his role?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
You know, he's also known as the Dude from Big Lebowski.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Yeah. Did you forget?
Yeah. He's that one actor I keep forgetting is in stuff like until I realise who he is. He's also the main character of Babylon 5.
You're right, he is. Yeah. That's Jeff Bridges. You know.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges. You know, actually, I think he actually has a really strong voice on him.
I agree. Yeah.
I don't know why. I think it's very I don't know. It's just the way. I guess he acts with a lot of confidence. But no, Jeff Bridges is a good actor. I like him a lot, and I like it just whenever he gets work.
But I don't think there has ever been a podcast in the history of podcasting that has started with Parasite and
Well,
The Lighthouse and ended with Tron.
Yeah, I mean, it also started with Up, technically.
That's true. Don't take anything we say seriously.
Yeah, I guess not. I guess we don't know what we're talking about. It's just two people talking about movies and like what we thought about them. We're not experts, I'll say that. At least I'm not. I just like what I like. You know, everything I learn about films, you can read it up in either a book or it's like somewhere off the internet. That's where I got it. That's where I learned it. I didn't go to a school, so unfortunately, you know, I didn't. You know, I don't know as much as somebody who did go to film school, but. If I can like these things from just browsing on the internet for a bit and understanding what stuff like style and cinematography is, you can do it too.
Basically, what we're saying is just have some standards.
Have some standards, yeah.
Sorry.
I don't mind, like, obviously, you can like what you like, and I'm not saying that. Just don't eat all the schlock that's given to you, all because it's a big budget film. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, I don't consider myself somebody that has that many unpopular opinions. I consider myself quite I tend to like what the general populace likes, but with films and TV shows to an extent, it just tends to be we like what's the norm, what's given to us. Keep pumping the machine. I don't like that. Because I think you're ruining cinema by helping these people produce more schlock. And I just wish that we could just go away from it a bit, reassess what we... Obviously, these aren't original opinions. You hear everyone on the internet.
Oh, this isn't even new opinions either. I've been hearing... Obviously, I haven't been alive for that long, but I've been hearing those opinions as far back as the 80s, so...
Yeah, exactly.
You're not the first person to
Scorsese.
say it. You're not the first person to say it. You almost certainly will not be the last person to say it.
And I'm just... It's a shame because I really love films. I just think... We watch 2 great ones in a week, and I think that's more the exception. I don't know if we'll ever watch 2 great films in a week.
I hate the
for
fact,
20 more years.
I hate the fact that I have seen quite possibly 2 of my all-time favourite films that came out in the space of a year, and I think it kind of it says something to how I currently view modern cinema. The fact that, you know, I can say that basically my film of the decade was a film that came out in 2019. And every film before then has kind of just been
I'd say the 2010s as a whole, just looking back, and it probably was. I mean, maybe not for B movies. I bet the 2010s might be one of the best decades, if not the best decade.
But if we're talking about cinema,
we're talking about Hollywood. Yeah,
cool. Let's take a look. What have we got? MCU. What's next? Oh well, coming up in the next 6 years is 12 more MCU films.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Obviously, you know, the 2000s weren't great, but there's still a lot of films you could point to where it was like, that was a modern classic. And stuff like the 90s as a decade, again, probably, I'd say the 90s more than ever pushed what is modern cinema. Obviously, we can talk post-Star Wars, but I think the 90s really cemented what modern cinema would end up being. But I'd say that was a good decade overall, 80s, 70s, all that. But the 2010s... You look back on so much of it and you're like, it's all just one big, like, pump in the pumping the corporate machine. It's like the people that work there just don't care about making films, other than to make a buck.
A quick buck at that.
Yeah, and to be fair, I can understand. No director, right? No director wants to make no money.
No.
I refuse to believe that. You make films not only to show off your vision, but you wanna make back something.
I might argue against that. I think there were at least people who wanted to make films for the love of making films.
No, I'm not saying you can do both. That's what I'm getting at.
I think there's a distinction between wanting your film to be successful and wanting your film to be profitable.
Yeah. I think what I'm saying is nobody wants their film to be unsuccessful. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay. Because I think it would be very dishonest to say that I think everyone wants their film to be profitable, because that means that you are actively looking at to making your film more accessible.
The point I was getting at was nobody wants their film to not make money. You want to tell the vision you do, but you can make this film that you envision to be perfect. And maybe, but obviously, no director wants it to be like, oh, nobody saw this, whatever, it did bad at the box office. Obviously, you do want it to do good at the box office. But then again, audiences have changed. Audiences have changed over the years. Audiences were more likely to go watch a more experimental film in the cinema than they are now. That's a fact. And I know, obviously, what the mainstream was in the 80s obviously might have been seen as bad, and what it was mainstream in the 70s and whatever. But there are films from the 70s and the 80s that you couldn't imagine being made in Hollywood today just because of how different they actually were. And I know a lot of those films, unfortunately, from those era kind of created modern Hollywood, because Hollywood's not allowed to do anything original anymore and has to survive off the old franchises, which is crazy, isn't it?
Do you want another reboot of Friday the 13th? Do you want it? Just asking. Oh, by the way.
Not really.
Oh.
There it is. Yeah, that's the thing. And it's like... And again, like, to be fair, I'm not going to say Friday the 13th is that good of a film. It's kind of a silly film anyway. But, like, for people who like Friday the 13th, they're not capturing what people like about that first film.
Yeah, okay, this is a completely separate thing, but why are we remaking films that modern audiences just have no connection to at all, yet we're treating like they do?
Because they want to capture the old audience.
Sure, but it's like when a children's channel brings back a show and makes a huge big deal about it, it's like, who's this for?
Yeah, I'm not a child anymore.
Yeah, I don't know, let's pull an example. We're bringing back Space Ghost. Who the hell is this for? Because they did, Cartoon Network did. They did bring back Space Ghost Coast to Coast, but for Cartoon Network, not for Adult Swim. And it wasn't the show itself, it was more the characters. And it's like, who is this for? What kid is going to be getting these references?
Well, that's the interesting thing. I think stuff like... Hollywood, they love to remake, don't they, and reboot. That's the era that is the 2010s, isn't it? The reboot era. And it's obviously it wants to capture... Let's look at Star Wars. They want to capture a lot of that old audience, don't they?
Yeah.
But they also want to market it to a modern audience, and when you do that, it can work. There are things that pull that off well, but when you do that, you're kind of alienating. Not alienating, but like you lose what people liked about that first film.
No, exactly.
But then you get into the issue of, do I want to make the first film exactly like the first film again? Because then you just go watch that first film. Hollywood's such a mess right now in terms of what you should. Remakes for me should only be if it's like essential,
or if you think you can improve.
If there's nothing wrong with that original vision, then you shouldn't be remaking it.
I know this is one that is kind of controversial, but it's that Ghostbusters remake. The original crew couldn't even recapture that magic of the first Ghostbusters.
Yeah, with Ghostbusters
2. Film's crap.
Yeah.
So who the hell does Paul Feig think he is, coming in and being like, we're going to remake it? What?
Yeah, again, it's just to capture that old crowd.
Yeah.
But also,
to quote Red Letter Media, Paul Feig is a hack.
But
I will happily say that.
You know who else? I think it's trying to capture people who haven't seen those films, but I've heard of that.
Yeah. Exactly,
I think you know what? More than anything, I think more than trying to capture the old crowd, I think it's trying to capture the I've heard of that crowd because it's a brand I've associated with.
That really does hurt. That cinema has been reduced to a brand. I think it's no big secret that films are my favourite thing. It's my number one priority is film, and I hate the fact that whenever I get talking to people about film, it's all the same stuff. It's kind of hard to go.
It's like get personality.
Yeah, I like film. Oh, have you seen the latest this? No, doesn't interest me. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, even I can't talk too much about indie films because I haven't seen many, so it's definitely harder to... I imagine being in your position must be quite difficult.
Yeah, don't take advice from me though. I have watched some awful films.
But if anything, wouldn't that just strengthen what you think's a good movie?
Yeah.
I think you need to watch bad movies to understand what makes a good movie.
If you want a good starting point, just go and watch Mystery Science Theater 3000. It's old though.
To be fair, like I've always had a problem with people who just won't watch anything because of certain aspects, but I also have an issue with the opposite extreme, which is like I love everything in cinema.
No, exactly. I think
then you're contributing to the problem.
Obviously, I don't hate everything in modern, like in Hollywood, but I would say that I'm more critical on it than a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm relatively critical on it, but I tend to, if there's a movie I'm interested in seeing in the cinema, I'll go see it. Just because that's
good advice.
I just like watching stuff in the cinema.
That's good advice. Take a leaf out of your book. And
watch in the cinema. Yeah. You can wait for a home release, but I prefer just the experience.
And we all know you're going to pirate it anyway.
Yeah, a lot of you pirates. So I just, obviously, if there's a movie I'm not interested in the cinema, most likely I'm not going to watch it. Just period. Unless it's old. Obviously, if it's old, I wasn't alive. But if there's a film in the cinema that I've... Very rarely, if there's a film I'm interested in, I haven't gone and seen it in the cinema already. You know what I mean?
Same. I don't think there's any film... Obviously, apart from stuff where I've missed it because I haven't been around, I think there isn't a single film that I
you should still, in my opinion, you should still go see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because I think that's a really good film. That's a Tarantino.
Yes,
one.
I still haven't seen that.
I still think that's a very good movie. Actually, one of my movies of 2019, definitely. Cool. I think you'll like it just because it's not, Tarantino tropey.
I am genuinely surprised that I didn't see the film.
Yeah,
because
I saw it in summer.
It's the same with what was it, Blade Runner? It's one of those films where I am surprised at myself for not seeing until like recently.
I think you'll like it because it's nothing. But obviously Tarantino's always been good with dialogue, but it's mostly just that. And it's not tropey and he even plays with your expectations because it keeps leading you on to the all his films. A lot of his films have the death that's so obvious that it's you could have avoided it kind of thing. It happened in Pulp Fiction. It happened in Django Unchained.
Well, I was going to say, wasn't Tarantino's last film The Hateful Eight? Which
again, it's like an avoidable death. It's going for the same thing, like this is going to be a death he could have avoided, and then it just doesn't happen, which I think is actually quite funny.
That's good.
I think it's a bit weird. It's this late into his career.
Okay, this is going to be a very, very like bold thing to be making, especially this late in the podcast, but what is Tarantino's best film, in your opinion?
Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs. Okay.
His first movie. That's horrible. It's true. Reservoir Dogs is my favourite. I think also Pulp Fiction is my second favourite. But like Reservoir Dogs, to me, it captures... I think it's just the best of Tarantino. That's just, I think that's just how it is, right? I think after a while his films get too samey. I like Reservoir Dogs. I like Pulp Fiction. I like Kill Bill, and Django Unchained. They're like my absolute like 4 favorites. And then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood would that's probably my top 5 in no particular order. His other films, I don't really care for Inglourious Bastards that much, and I think Jackie Brown's a bit whatever.
I completely forgot he made Jackie Brown. I completely forgot Jackie Brown was a film.
There's another film he made, one about like a bunch of women need to go kill this guy that people forget about. The Hateful Eight, I don't like either. There's nothing against, I think Tarantino makes good movies when he wants to. I think he just falls back on, him doing all this stuff like the great... weirdly enough, even though he praises great dialogue and all that, and his style, weirdly enough, it gets to a point where it's safe and he starts to fall back on it. You know what I mean? Like, his style is just something he's fallen back on now. And now all his films feel samey. But in terms of his best movie, I'd probably say Reservoir Dogs is my favourite. Then Pulp Fiction, they're probably my top two. Obviously, everyone likes Pulp Fiction because it's not in order, right? But I just think, other than that, because I just like the dialogue in the movie. That's why I watch his films. I watch it for the dialogue. I don't really watch it for anything else. And I think Reservoir Dogs is the best of it. So yeah, I'd probably say his first movie is his best one.
Sure.
What do you say his best movie is?
I'm gonna say Reservoir Dogs as well.
Okay, fair enough. You peaked too early.
Tarantino, get Ben.
But if it means anything, his newest film was one of the best films he did since probably Django.
I don't actually have an opinion either way on Kill Bill because I've only seen the second half of it.
Yeah,
surprisingly, but I'm gonna say Kill Bill does not feel like a Tarantino film.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't think it's just
the
extremes of what he does?
Yeah. But it's more the way in which it's filmed, the way in which the dialogue is written, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't feel like a Tarantino.
I like Kill Bill.
And that's not a diss. That's not a diss either. That's literally just, it feels like that was him where he's pushing the boat.
Yeah, I like Kill Bill because it's pretty much just like his Tarantino is most unhinged. I don't think it's his best film. I just think it's the one he tried the hardest on in terms of just going balls to the walls. And it even ended like, it didn't end on a spectacular action sequence, did it? It just ends on the whole her meeting her husband. They have a sit down conversation for about 10 minutes. I think.
So by the way, I killed like 20 people to get you. You did what? I'm calling the police. And
then it just ends with like one scene where she does the exploding heart technique where she hits him once and then he takes the 3 steps and he falls. Again, that's, I think, for such an over the top film, I think ending it like that is actually quite perfect.
Yeah. I'm not very Tarantino.
No. Again, that's what I'd say though with those early films he did though, I'd say they were quite, I think he tries too hard and he falling back on like what he's good at. Which, in any other director's case, or just in a director's case, just if it wasn't a director who did a lot of films, you go, that's cool, but it's the fact that we keep seeing the same film by this guy that's just kind of like, right. But that's just my opinion on Tarantino. Closing out, we watched a lot of good movies in cinema, and we talked a lot about just movies in general. Kind of lost its structure in the second half there, but... No, watch movies, they're good, I guess. Unless they're not.
Why don't you head over to our website, drearymiddle.com, where we will have links to maybe some films we recommend.
Just links to movies.
Just links to movies. Yeah. Do we like these movies? We'll watch them and find out.
Just link them and we go, no! We link them to like a movie we hate.
Yeah.
We're like, why did you watch this, idiot? I hate this movie.
Here's the Sonic OVA. 2 out of 10. Don't watch this.